What's up, my friends, and welcome into the PHLY Phillies podcast. As always, we broadcast live from the Xfinity Lounge here at the PHLY studios. We're brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365 and TrueMark Financial Credit Union. Thanks to both of those for being our presenting sponsors through the remainder of 2025 now. And a happy Friday to you. We've made it to the end of another work week and a weekend of, well, it might not be as nice weather as what we've seen over the last couple of weeks, but it is still the weekend, and we are here, and we are a step closer to hopefully some news, right? We have now hit that little bit of a lull in between the end of the World Series and free agency opening up, the trades opening up, the hot stove really heating up. There is news. Things have happened, but we await patiently, we await patiently the news of Philly sorts. So we'll do a lot today. It's going to be a little bit more perspective and hypotheticals and things like that. But we will also talk about the actual news that has come out over the last couple of days. We have a lot to get into today on the PHLY Phillies podcast. So here's what's coming up over the next hour. First and foremost, we're going to talk about Kyle Schwarber and Ranger Suarez getting offered the qualifying offers, what it means, what happens if they do sign, what happens if they don't sign, and how it impacts the Phillies in terms of compensation. Don Mattingly is no longer a member of the Toronto Blue Jays coaching staff. We'll talk about what Mattingly could potentially bring to the Phillies, and is he a fit for this team? We had a commenter on one of our videos earlier in the week suggest a specific player for the Phillies to trade for at the third base position. We'll talk about, is that a viable option? Do they have the ability to make that move? And does the team that he currently plays for want to move them? And then, of course, at the end of today's show, we will do our Friday trivia like we do each and every Friday. A lot to get into. Hello to you all. Tyler Zula here. Ethan Hartley producing today's show. Let's start with the qualifying offers from the Phillies. And we have a roundtable of news and notes today to get into. So Kyle Schwarber and Ranger Suarez, unsurprisingly, both received the qualifying offers from the Phillies before the qualifying offer deadline yesterday at 5 o'clock. In total, 13 players received qualifying offers. And we'll talk about all 13 of them. We'll talk about, do we think they're going to accept the offer or not? But before we do that, let's talk about Ranger and Schwarber specifically. I think both of these guys were unsurprisingly offered the qualifying offer, and I think both of these guys, unsurprisingly, are going to turn it down, right? Because it's a one-year deal worth about $22 million. I think both of these guys are going to get well more than that, not just on an annual basis, but on a multi-year extension, or a multi-year deal, I should say, in free agency this offseason. It makes a ton of sense that they are going to turn it down. That means that the Phillies still have negotiating abilities with them, but so does every other team in the league come free agency. These guys are both going to, I think they're going to take offers from elsewhere. In terms of take offers, I mean, they're going to have conversations with other teams. I have said been pretty steadfast in the fact that I think Ranger Suarez is going to sign elsewhere. I'm about 50-50 on Kyle Schwarber. I was more in the camp of it's going to happen a couple weeks ago. I think we all want it to happen. I think the Phillies want it to happen. I think even Kyle Schwarber, if you gave him the truth serum, probably wants it to happen as well. But it is a business, and it's a monetary decision. It's a year's decision. It depends on, does he want to stay with what's comfortable, who he's been with in Philly for the last 4 seasons? Does he get offered a ton more? Does he get offered more years? What do the offers look like? We'll only know when the offers start to pour in. But I'm about 50-50, maybe a little bit more, maybe like 60-40 Schwarber stays versus Schwarber goes. But I'm like 10-90 Ranger stays, Ranger goes. I'm fairly convinced Ranger Suarez is not going to be a member of the Phillies. But regardless, both of these guys got the qualifying offer. And what that gives is some draft pick compensation in case the Phillies don't re-sign them. Now, there are 3 different buckets for the qualifying offer in terms of compensation. Really, only one of them is important to the Phillies. But I'll explain all of them in case you're unfamiliar with the qualifying offer. So if a team is receiving revenue share, meaning team doesn't spend a lot of money, team gets that revenue share money. Think about the Marlins, the Pirates, the Rockies, the White Sox this season. Some of the teams the A's, the teams that historically don't spend a lot of money, they are the teams that receive revenue share. And in fact, inside the revenue share, it breaks down into two separate categories itself. If the player that you lose signs for more than $50 million, your team gets a pick between the first round and the competitive balance round A. So you would look at a draft pick somewhere in the 32, 34, 35-ish range, depending on where you sit in that revenue share department. If the player that you signed or that signs elsewhere signs for less than $50 million, then you would get a competitive balance round, a pick after competitive balance round B. So you're thinking about probably in the 45 to 50-ish range. Still a good draft pick, but it does fall significantly less if it's not a highly paid player. That is for teams with revenue sharing. It doesn't concern the Phillies at all. The second one is teams that are not receiving revenue share and are not paying into the luxury tax. So the teams that sit in between luxury tax threshold and revenue sharing, that pick falls after competitive balance round B, no matter what type of player that they lose. So if you offer the qualifying offer and you lose that player, you end up with a pick after competitive balance B. Again, doesn't matter for the Phillies' sake, but just to give you an understanding of where the draft compensation goes. Teams that are paying into the luxury tax, which a lot of times is kind of, I don't want to say in lockstep, but it's fairly similar to the teams that are offering qualifying offers. Now, there's a list of 13 players, and not all 13 players were on teams that were paying into the luxury tax. But a lot of times when you see qualifying offers made, it is by luxury tax paying teams or in that middle ground because you're trying to get that draft pick compensation in case you don't re-sign that player. So for teams like the Phillies who are paying into the luxury tax, the draft pick compensation would come after the fourth round. Listen, it's not the greatest thing in the world. Like, good players can be found in the fourth round. Good players have been historically found throughout, all different phases of the draft. We've talked about it plenty. There are only, 4 guys in the history of baseball who have been selected number 1 overall that are Hall of Famers. With that being said, you can think about guys that were drafted in the 20s, in the 30s. Now, there's not, 50, 60 rounds anymore, but, good players can be found late in drafts. Obviously the big historical one is Mike Piazza, right? Was drafted, in the 63rd round or something like that. It was a favor to somebody in the front office. He was somebody's nephew of a friend of a friend or whatever it was. He was drafted in the 62nd round of the 1988 draft, ends up going on to have a Hall of Fame career. So you can find good players, but it is a steep discount in terms of that fourth round compensation compared to if you are not paying into the luxury tax. The thought is, if you spend money and you lose a good player, the draft pick compensation's nice, but what you're probably going to do is you're just going to reallocate those funds and spend it somewhere else. Like in the Phillies' case, if they don't re-sign Kyle Schwarber and they don't re-sign Ranger Suarez, they're not just going to not spend that $50 or $60 million. They're just going to reallocate it elsewhere. They'll go sign another player, or they'll sign multiple players and reallocate those funds elsewhere. So, that's the thought process behind that compensatory pick being after the fourth round. It's like, well, if you spend money, you're just going to spend money no matter what. So it's not great, but it's not nothing either. So do I expect either of these two guys to accept their qualifying offer? I absolutely do not. I think both of these guys would be foolish to accept the qualifying offer. They're going to get multi-year deals at pretty exceptionally higher numbers per year and in total than $22 million. Rangers probably going to settle somewhere at 25, 27, and I think Kyle Schwarber gets upwards of 30 plus per season, and you might even see him get into the 35, 37, $38 million range himself. So both of these guys are going to say no. Let's talk about in total. 13 players received the qualifying offer this season. Kyle Schwarber and Ranger Suarez, as we mentioned. Kyle Tucker, unsurprising. Bo Bichette, Framber Valdez, Shota Imanaga, Dylan Cease, Edwin Diaz, Trent Grisham, Michael King, Zach Gallen, Brandon Woodruff, and Gleyber Torres. Let's ask the question, how many of these guys take the offer? So I think it's probably, 3 or 4. Schwarber's going to say no. Ranger's going to say no. So both locally, both those guys are going to say no. Kyle Tucker will say no. So will Bo Bichette. So will Framber Valdez. And then I believe so will Dylan Cease and Edwin Diaz. That's 7 of the 13. I also think that Shota Imanaga and Zach Gallen will probably both turn it down. That gets you to 9. That leaves us with Trent Grisham, Michael King, Brandon Woodruff, Gleyber Torres. I would say of those 4, probably 2 or 3 say yes. I think Trent Grisham accepts it because I don't know if he duplicates the year that he has, and $22 million guaranteed might be more than he gets on an annual basis. He may get a 2 or 3 year deal, but I think he gets more on an annual basis at $22 million. I think Trent Grisham takes it. Then the other guys are kind of iffy. Gleyber Torres probably is going to get a multi-year deal, whether it's with Detroit or not. But I could see him accepting it if he doesn't get the offers that he thinks he should get, because I do think Gleyber Torres could reproduce the season that he had this past season. Michael King and Brandon Woodruff are interesting ones because they're both guys that have had kind of some injury history over the last couple of years. Woodruff pitched in 12 games this year for the Brewers after that big injury where he missed, I believe he missed all of 24, if I'm not mistaken, but only pitched in 12 games this year. He's had a really good track record of success. I think you might see him take that just to get some stability, but I also could see him saying, give me the long-term deal with more money maybe on the back end as kind of like a prove-it type of contract. I don't know. Obviously all money's guaranteed once you sign it. But I think those are the 4 guys that might be the most likely. But I think in total of the 13, not many of these guys are going to accept the qualifying offer. All right, before we get to our next topic of conversation, let's welcome our second member of today's program into the show. It's our producer, Ethan Hartley. Ethan, a happy Friday to you. Of those 13 guys, actually, let's start with Schwarber and Ranger. Are you in the belief that neither of those guys are going to accept the QO?
Yeah, probably at that point. I mean, my only concern, I think, for Ranger in the market would just be like how much of a dip he has, post like All-Star break, getting into that second half season. But he always picks it back up in the postseason. Sure. So to me, that's very minuscule if I'm a general manager to give him some sort of long-term contract.
Schwarber would be stupid to accept it.
Yeah.
He's going to get a 4 or 5 year deal.
100%.
Probably worth $130, $140 million. Of the other 11, I listed those 4: Grisham, King, Woodruff, Gleyber. Any other guy I didn't mention that you think might take it?
Cease to me feels a little 50-50. Last year he was really bad, so I could definitely see teams kind of being a little turned off by that and
Cease
just thinking,
is so weird, dude.
Yeah,
like
he's
his
always
stuff
up and down.
Is elite, but when he does not command the strike zone, he has some bad outings.
Yeah.
The other one that might consider it is Imanaga because of his age, but I also think because of his age, he might want to get that last. I don't want to say that last. He's 32, but he's been in the league for 5 years, but because he came over from Japan a little later, he is 32. I do think he might want to try to get one more long-term deal, 3-year deal or so. But Imanaga might be an interesting one as well.
Yeah, and then I think the other ones, to me, I feel pretty strong that all of those 4 guys could really take it. I think, especially
Grisham feels like a lock to me.
Yeah, 100%. It kind of feels like Nick Martinez last year, just the one-off good year, but you kind of know what you're looking at, and just that this guy won't really do this.
If Nick Martinez was willing to move back into the bullpen, I'd sign him tomorrow to a multi-year deal.
Yeah,
but he wants to start. Mm-hmm. I don't like him as a starter. I like him as a reliever.
Yeah.
But if he was willing to move back into the bullpen, I would do it. I would sign him tomorrow if I could. All right, let's get into some of the other things that we have to get into today. The next newsworthy thing is the Silver Slugger Awards have been announced, and no Phillies win the Silver Slugger this year. So Kyle Schwarber was never going to win it. He's going up against the MVP of the league, or of the National League, in Shohei Ohtani, or my presumed MVP, I should say. Like we talked about it on Wednesday. If Ohtani wins the MVP, it's probably going to be close to unanimous. And I think if you win the MVP and the numbers are good enough, you're going to win the Silver Slugger at your position. So to me, Kyle Schwarber really never stood much of a chance in either of these categories. Trey Turner is the interesting one, because when you think about Trey Turner, the good of Turner was he led the National League in batting average. He won the batting title. He had more hits than the guy who did win it, which was Geraldo Perdomo, despite playing 20 less games than Perdomo did. But when you look at the numbers and the categories that are important to Silver Slugger, Perdomo pretty much sweeps across the board. He had 5 more home runs. He had 31 more RBI. He had a 34-point higher on-base percentage, a 5-point higher slugging percentage, a 39-point higher OPS, and a 15-point higher OPS plus. Trey Turner had a heck of a year. It was probably his best year as a member of the Phillies. But I think the voters made the right decision in giving the Silver Slugger to Geraldo Perdomo. Perdomo had an excellent year. Like, you could have convinced me that Perdomo could have been in the MVP conversation. Like, he'll probably finish, I don't know, 4th, 5th, 6th, somewhere in the MVP voting. I know he's not in the top 3. Juan Soto finished 3rd, who had a fine season himself. But you could have argued that Perdomo had MVP qualities this season for the Diamondbacks. They just fell short because they were riddled with injuries. But I think in this case, I know that Trey Turner led the National League in the batting title, but I think Perdomo is the right choice. And so I'm not surprised that none of the Phillies ended up being Silver Slugger nominees. All right, let's take a break. On the other side, we're going to get into this Don Mattingly conversation. We also have to get into this hypothetical trade that was proposed to us. But before we do any of that, one of the biggest free agents in baseball is officially a free agent. We'll talk more about Munetaka Murikami in just a second. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, what his trajectory might look like, what are his projections for free agency, because he is unbelievably intriguing to any team that's willing to spend the money, not just in free agency, but of course the posting numbers as well. We'll talk more about Murakami on the other side, and then of course at the end of the show, we have to get to our Friday trivia, as we do each and every Friday. It's the PHLY Phillies podcast. We broadcast live from the Xfinity Lounge. We will be right back after this. All right, if you're thinking about catching a show, a comedy act, theater, concert, whatever it might be, or you want to hit the road to travel with the birds, the best place to buy tickets, 100% authentic tickets, is with our friends over at Game Time. See, with Game Time, they give the advantage back to you, the fan, because they know exactly, or you know exactly what you're going to pay when you sign up for your tickets. Just one little toggle, you're going to see exactly where your fees are. There's no hidden fees. There's no put the credit card information and, whoa, where'd that $27 come from? Now, they're going to tell you exactly what you're going to pay up front so you know what you're getting into. And with the 3D seat map view on Game Time, you can see exactly where your seats are. Maybe you're going to a new arena, a new stadium, a new ballpark, whatever it might be. You're going somewhere you've never been before. You don't want to get saddled with bad seats behind the foul pole or with an obstructed view or facing caddy corner to the stage or the field or the ice or whatever it might be. With the 3D seat map, you can see exactly where your seats are going to be before you buy them. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. They offer you the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation policy, job loss protection. They want to make sure that they are working with you to get the best ticket buying experience possible. So take that guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app today, create an account, use the code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code PHLY for $20 off. Tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. And while we're here, let me tell you about our friends over at Bucci Jewelers. Because listen, we've all been there before. You're shopping for that special someone, that ring, the big purchase, right? And if you're thinking about the overwhelming thoughts about what are the 5 C's, what's the right diamond, what's the right shape of the ring, it's a lot. It's overwhelming. Listen, when I first walked in, I was confused, and for me, the team at Bucci Jeweler, they were the group that really made it stick. It's our friends Joe and Michelle. They've been in the game for a long time. They're game changers. They make the whole process seamless. From the minute you walk in, you're going to feel like one of one. They don't want to make you feel like a number or just another customer. They want to make it a personalized experience for you. They listen to help you figure out what you love, and then their team designs something completely custom right there in-house. So there's no pressure. There's no pushy sales vibes. It's just a good opportunity for you to find the ring that your partner is going to love. So next time you need the perfect piece, head on over to Joe and Michelle at Bucci Jewelry and Design. 30 plus years in the game, voted Philly's #1 jeweler year after year, over 1,000 5-star reviews. Check them out today at BucciJewelers.com and tell them the guys at PHLY sent you. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the PHLY Phillies podcast. Tyler Zula here, Ethan Hartley, everybody hanging out in the chat. Really appreciate you all. Stephen Paul, Pat Ryan, Ray Schumacher, K-Red, RF, Molly and Barkley's Life, UK Birds Fan 01, Frank Barber, everybody for being here. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We got to talk about this super intriguing free agent that became a free agent today. And if you did not hear the news, Munetaka Murikami, has officially or is officially going to be posted today, which will open up a 45-day window for Murakami to negotiate with teams, for teams to offer the posting a number, and then to sign those exclusive negotiating rights after that. What's up, Broad Street Bullies? Hello to you as well. Pat Ryan, hello to you as well. This guy is unbelievably intriguing for so many reasons. There's a ton of good, and then there's one really, really bad. And I don't know how you feel about balancing the good versus the bad. And if the really, really bad is concerning, it may scare some teams off. But the really, really good is going to make him one of the more hot commodities in all of baseball. He's 25 years old. He is 6'2". He is built like a house. He is a big dude, strong dude. And if you've watched highlights of this guy, which is what most of us have done, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I've been invested in Swallows baseball. But when you watch his highlights in Japan, my goodness, when this guy gets a hold of the baseball, watch out. When I tell people don't bring your gloves to a game because you're an adult, you might want to bring your glove to a game if you're sitting in home run territory when Murakami's at the plate. This guy's pop is undeniable. In fact, just a couple of seasons ago, 2022 to be exact, he hit 56 home runs in 141 games, drove in 134. Over the last couple of years, the power numbers have diminished a little bit. 31 the following year, 33 the year after that. Last year, he was limited to just 56 games because of an oblique injury. He hit 22 home runs in those 56 games. The power is unquestionable. When I was reading an article today, and the article came from David Adler. It's a really good piece on MLB.com. It really breaks down everything that Murakami does well, the things that maybe he doesn't do so well. And when you think about Murakami, the numbers speak for themselves, but more importantly, the metrics speak for themselves. Let's take a look at Murakami's numbers from his time in Japan. Over 892 Pacific League games. 270 average, strong average, 394 OBP, again, a strong OBP, the well over 550 slug, the nearly 1 OPS throughout his career, 246 home runs, 300 and almost 400 extra base hits, almost 650 RBI. But if you look at that chart to the right, which again comes from our friends at MLB.com, it's like his equivalent to his Baseball Savant page. The numbers are off the charts. The power numbers are undeniable. Like the ISO numbers are unreal. The guy walks at a good amount as well. 2025, he had a 14.3% walk percentage, which was 99th percentile in all of Japan. It's double the league average. And that wasn't even one of his better seasons. When we go back to that 22 year, which was just ridiculous, he walked at almost 19%. But what this guy does well, when he squares up the baseball, is hit it a very long way. And I don't know if he'll ever be that 56 home run guy again. That was an exceptional season. But the power numbers are undeniable for this guy. 30-plus home runs in most of his years. As I said, last year was a down year because of the injury. And I don't mean down in terms of numbers. Did still hit 22 home runs and drive in 47 in 56 games. But in terms of just sheer games played, didn't play as many games. That's the good. The bad is the swing and miss. There is a lot of swing and miss. And in fact, since that year, that 2022 season, when he hit 56 home runs, his whiff rates have gone in the wrong direction and his strikeout rates have gone in the wrong direction. In 2022, when he hit 56 home runs, he struck out at about 21%, which is still pretty high, but it's the lowest of the conversation that we're about to have. Since then, he's never been less than 28.1%, 28.1%, 29.5%, and 28.6%. And the whiff rates have all gone in the wrong direction as well. 31% in 22, no better than 34% from 23 to 26. He is such an intriguing guy because of the fact that his good is so unbelievably good, but you're going to have to take the bad to get to the good. When you think about old school power hitters, the swing and miss guys, right? But the guys that have elite level power, I think about like a modern day Adam Dunn, but Murakami's average is much better. I think about Schwarber. I even think about guys like Shohei Ohtani who do swing and miss a decent bit, but it's not to the level of Murakami. And as David Adler points out in his article today, the one thing that could be concerning for Murakami compared to the other power hitters across Major League Baseball is that his contact rate in the zone was 72.6%, which is a lot of swing and miss for strikes, right? If you're chasing and you're swinging and missing, that's one thing. That's an approach thing. That's a mindset thing. You can kind of work through that. If you're swinging and missing at pitches in the zone, you're just swinging and missing. So that 72% is down from his big year, about 5%, considering the fact that the MLB average, again, from Adler's piece, is 82.5%. You're talking about a near 10% difference. Again, Schwarber and Ohtani are the guys that Adler brings up. I thought about Adam Dunn. I thought about Mark Reynolds, whose swing paths caused a lot of swing and miss. I thought about Chris Davis from the Baltimore Orioles, whose swing paths caused a lot of swing and miss, but their in-zone rates were better than 72%. They were about 75, right? So to think about the good with the bad, do you like the power, which is undeniable, or do you worry about the swing and miss stuff? I think most teams are going to get enamored with the power, and they should. And it's why I think this guy is going to generate a pretty sizable free agent contract when he does get signed. The one thing I know he does exceptionally well is hit fastballs. His run value off of fastballs in 2025 alone was a 20.9. That's absurd. He saw 475 fastballs this year. His numbers are excellent against them, especially considering he saw 217 of those fastballs come against lefties, and he had a 12.2 run value on those pitches. He can hit left-handed pitching as well. He is going to have to improve his swing and miss stuff. And then the other thing I think is less important because he is a pure power hitter. Is he a defensive third baseman at the major league level? Probably not. He is probably going to have to move to first base or perhaps be a team's DH in certain spots. I'm less concerned about the defensive value here because of the elite power numbers. If he can fix his swing and miss stuff, and I'm not asking him to get down to like 18%, but if he can go from the 29% 29% strikeout rate and get it to like 22, 23, this dude's going to be an elite power hitter. The question is, can he translate the high strikeout rate at the Japanese level, which to me, I said this the other day, I still think is the second best professional league in baseball. It is still the second best professional league in baseball compared to Major League Baseball, which is the best. Can he lower those numbers at the major league level? If he does, at 25 years old, this kid's going to be an elite level power hitter. If he doesn't, I worry about high strikeout numbers when he does come to the major league level. With that being said, he's going to get a big payday because teams are going to go, I can fix that. My hitting coach can fix that. Our team around him can make that adjustment. And his power is so undeniable that once we get that swing path corrected, and that swing and miss stuff, especially the swing and miss stuff in the zone, once we get that corrected, the sky's the limit for this kid. Ethan, I think this kid's going to be an elite level power hitter. Do you have a whole lot? Do you like? I have, on a scale of 1 to 10, my worry about the swing and miss stuff for this kid is like 5 or 6. So it's not nothing, but it's not like, oh my gosh, this kid's going to hit 180 when he comes over. How much do you worry about the swing and miss stuff versus the known quantity, which is like when this guy hits the ball, his exit velos are the best we've seen in like 10 years?
I mean, I think in other leagues it would be a little more worrisome because of the differentiation in pitching and what you'll see. I mean, I know it's still a pretty sizable gap when comparing the two leagues. That would probably be my biggest concern and what I would like look into most. I would guess I'm probably a little higher than you, maybe like a 7.
Okay.
An 8 feels too high for me, but 7 is kind of. I would have to see a lot. Like it's definitely to me one of the bigger challenges to come over, especially if that's like tendency versus habit. Like
Sure.
you know what exactly like is down in the gritty details of what is missing. Why are these numbers so high that we want to bring down? So I think bottom line is just I'm a little more worried about it.
I think what my big concern would be is the number of, or the what was I trying to say here? Excuse me, I lost my train of thought. The strikeout or the whiff numbers on breaking balls. It's exceptionally high last season. I think it was at like 48% on breaking balls last year. It's not good. But I think teams are going to get extremely enamored with the power, as they probably should. And I think he's going to get several high-end offers. So let me ask you this. I've seen this on social media quite a bit. I laugh at it, and then I go, maybe there's point to it. Is he a Dodger? Or is there actually a team that can come in and make the play to sign this guy?
I don't know what would stop LA at this point in time from just, again, continuing to just write another blank check, say, here you go. And I don't know why, if, that's something that is really valued to him, why he would ever turn away from that. I mean, they have two of the best players in the league that are both from Japan who have shown immense success transitioning, whatever flaws they had beforehand. I don't think really either of them had substantial work that needed to be turned around. We'll see with Sasaki, and if they can fix that and then show to other players that, hey, here are problems that we fixed, and you're in good hands to have a very successful career and make a lot of money. So we'll see, but it obviously doesn't not cross my mind.
If he's not a Dodger, I think that there are two teams that make a lot of sense. I think the Seattle Mariners make sense. Eugenio Suarez is a free agent. They were on the doorstep of going to the World Series. If they want to show that they are a serious franchise, because remember, this is the ownership group that said we try to win 54% of our games, and everybody went, what the bleep are you talking about, dude? Like, whether that comes up on your Excel sheet or not, you can't say that crap out loud, right? So if you want to be the team that is taken seriously and you have elite level pitching and you need that power bat, right? Do you bring back Josh Naylor? Do you make a signing like this? I think the Seattle Mariners make a ton of sense for Murakami. Listen, you let Eugenio Suarez play third for half a season. His defense sucks too. So if you're not worried about defense at third, which again, I'm not super concerned about it with this guy, like this guy's power outweighs the defense, then he could be your third baseman. If you don't re-sign Josh Naylor, he could be your first baseman. You could theoretically have him be your DH. He could do a little bit of it all. I think Seattle makes a ton of sense. The other team that I think could be in the mix here, and Phillies fans aren't going to want to hear this, is the New York Mets. Especially if Pete Alonso doesn't re-sign. If he signs elsewhere, I think the Mets could be in play for Murakami. He would slide in really, really nicely in the 4-hole. He could play first base if Alonso doesn't return. He could DH if they want to really. They've already spent a big ton of money on Soto, obviously. If they want to continue to spend, I think they were the second highest paid payroll in baseball last year, or third. If they want to continue to spend, there's nothing stopping them, right? Like, Steve Cohen clearly wants to spend and win. Hasn't worked for them, but I think the Mets make a lot of sense as well. Any other team, if it's not the Dodgers, that you would keep an eye on?
I really like Seattle.
Yeah.
I think they're kind of probably at that second tier in terms of teams that have really good connection to Japanese players. Not off the top of my head, maybe, am I missing who plays first base in San Diego.
So San Diego was the other one I thought about, but then I have heard reports that they're trying to shed salary.
Which would make sense.
So I don't know if they're going to take any more money on.
Yeah, they're like in debt, right?
They're cash poor.
Yeah.
The Padres are like weirdly cash poor.
Yeah. So
I don't know how that works, but they're like weirdly in a weird spot. And yes, Molly and Barkley's life. Pete Alonso opted out of his contract. He is a free agent. I expect him. And then Broad Street Bullies brings up the Giants. That's another one interesting as well. The Giants are in an interesting spot. So they trade for Rafi Devers. They, a couple years ago, signed Jung-Hoo Lee. They're a team that likes to spend money, but has maybe misallocated their funds over the last couple of seasons. Yeah, they've not been misjudged good over the last few seasons. Like, they probably need a spark as well. San Francisco would make some sense to me. I could see that being a move. I don't know how much money they're willing to offer, but I do think the Giants actually make some good sense there too. Broad Street Bullies. All right, let's pause. On the other side, we got to get into the Don Mattingly conversation. We have this hypothetical trade that I wanted to get into, and then our trivia to end the show is about All-Stars and Phillies All-Stars over the years. We'll pause on the other side. We'll get to all of that. It's the PHLY Phillies podcast. We broadcast live from the Xfinity Lounge. We will be right back after this. All right, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. You find out why it is, again, never ordinary at Bet365 because 90 million users worldwide have teamed up for the live in-game experience of a lifetime. 78,000 different live-streamed events across 78 different sports each and every year. 780,000 live events, excuse me. I shortchanged them by about 10%. 780,000 live-streamed events means you're never going to miss a moment with our friends over at Bet365. And you can live in-game bet as lines change all of the time, and you get the best and most up-to-date odds. And sometimes you get better odds than when the game started. You feel comfortable about your team after they fall behind early in the game. Boom, you can get it on the lines as they change. And how about this? Right now, new users sign up, use that promo code at the bottom of the screen, PHLY365, deposit $10, place a bet for $5, and you get $200 back in bonus bets, whether your bet wins or loses. You can use that bonus bet money on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and so much more. You'll find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. You must be 21 and physically located in PA. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. And whether your favorite team wins or not, there is always another way to win on the BetParx online casino app. You can check out their new casino games like Huff and More Puff and Fireblaze Sky Queen, which is a BetParx exclusive. It's just part of the reason it's the only app I would ever use to play all my favorite casino games right in the palm of my hand. I've told you before, I love playing some blackjack, but you can play roulette, craps, baccarat, poker, and hot online slots like 88 Fortunes and Cleopatra. And if you like the slots that are based on your favorite shows, how about this? Walking Dead, Squid Games, Breaking Bad, Peaky Blinders, and all of your favorite classic casino games wherever you are. And new users right now get up to $1,000 bonus casino bonus back if you're down in the first 24 hours. Head on over to betparx.com, download the app right now, and enjoy all of the action and the excitement from the casino at your fingertips. You must be 21 and in PA, New Jersey, Maryland, or Michigan for BetParx. You love to play, you play to win. You bet BetParx. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, let's get into the Ethan. I apologize. I changed the rundown on us on the fly, so I'm sorry for as a producer. I would hate when my hosts do that, so I'm going to apologize as a host to you as my producer.
It's okay.
I'm flipping the order of because I put the Murakami conversation in, and I'm like, wait a minute, that probably should have been like the headline of the show. Quite frankly, it wasn't. That's what happens with live content like this. So we had to make do. Let's get into the hypothetical trade situation that was proposed. So last week when I was off and Jamie and Rich filled in, we had a commenter on one of our videos suggest a trade with the Houston Astros to acquire Isaac Paredes. Now, before we get into any of the types of conversation, I wanted to play you this clip. So from the Foul Territory Network comes the Crush City Territory podcast, which is a Houston Astros-based podcast from the Foul Territory Network. And the person that is speaking in this clip is Chandler Rome. So he's the host of the podcast. He's also the Houston Astros beat writer for The Athletic. And Chandler Rome discussed what a Isaac Paredes trade might look like and if the Astros are in line to think about trading Paredes. Here's Chandler Rome.
Isaac Paredes, if you trade Isaac Paredes, you could probably get a ton back for him. I'm not talking like Kyle Tucker haul, obviously, but like you get a nice package back for Isaac Paredes, who is coveted by a lot of teams, who is going to make around $10 million, which is not nothing, but it's for what he's going to provide you. It's a pretty good salary. And he's versatile. He can play first base, can play third base. I guess if a team wants to try him at second base, go right ahead. I'll say this from just like a reporting perspective. I don't think the Astros know yet either. I think they're in the part of the offseason right now where like they're having preliminary conversations about like, hey, this is like what we're thinking. We're not fully committed to it, but like this is where we're leaning. And I'll be brutally honest, I don't know where they're leaning. I have no idea. But I know they've had discussions about just like, here's what we think, here's what we want to do. My gut tells me that because of how limited their lineup was this year, and because of the traits that doomed their lineup this year, I think they're going to try to keep Isaac Paredes on the team. I don't think you can give away everything that you want the lineup to be is housed inside of Isaac Paredes.
I tend to agree with Chandler Rome here. I don't think the Astros are going to trade Isaac Paredes either. I also think Isaac Paredes is born to play in Houston. Why? Because his power is extreme pull power, and he is born to play in the Crawford boxes. Now, his numbers last year, he had 20 home runs, but it was in terms of games played and at bats, it was less than what I think they expected. I expect him to be about a 30, 35 home run guy over the course of a full season in Houston. Now, the question that was posed was, can you trade for Isaac Paredes? And Chandler Rome brings up that like the return would be pretty sizable because the good of Paredes is what we talked about, the extreme pull power that when he is able to get a hold of one, he does tend to hit the ball far and hard. The issue with Paredes is that if you look at his Baseball Savant page, there's a lot of blue in some bad spots, and those bad spots include his bat speed is not particularly strong, which could become a problem as his career progresses, but he also does not barrel the ball that particularly well, and his hard hit percentage is down in the 14th percentile. What does he do well? He doesn't chase, he doesn't whiff, he doesn't strike out, he walks a good bit, and as I said, if you want somebody who's going to wrap a ton of home runs down the left field foul pole, that's your guy, which is why I believe that Isaac Paredes is like legitimately born to play in Houston. The next question that gets posed is, do the Astros have a positional logjam? Well, at third base, they trade for Carlos Correa this season, and Correa is under contract for the next 842 years, at least in terms of vested options, it feels like. So Correa is not going anywhere. He's going to play third until he can't play third anymore. They also have Christian Walker at first. So the question is, like, do you move Paredes and get the big haul in return, or do you try to move Christian Walker, knowing that you probably don't get the same haul because he's 35 or going to be 35. He's coming off one of his worst statistical seasons in terms of like most categories, average down, OBP's down, slug is down, other than home runs, which he did produce a decent amount of home runs. Christian Walker can still play defense. Is he like the premier platinum glove type of level defender anymore? Maybe not, but he's still a really, really, really good defensive first baseman. One of the best in baseball, in my opinion, still, even heading into his 35 season. But he does still have 2 years left at $20 million a season heading into his 35 and 36 season. What are you going to get in return for Christian Walker? It's not a lot. Like, I think the return would be adequate, but you might be left wanting. If you trade Isaac Paredes, which I still don't think they're going to do, but if the Astros were to trade Isaac Paredes, you would have to get a pretty sizable haul in return, because remember, Paredes was one of the two big names that was acquired in exchange for Kyle Tucker. So if you have Cam Smith, who I think the Astros like a lot, but you also traded for Isaac Paredes because of that pull power. And if you move on from Paredes after a season, you're going to have to, in order to justify that move, like you're going to have to get something sizable in return. And Rome brings it up. It's not a Kyle Tucker return, but you probably do get something sizable back. So I guess the question is, first of all, do the Astros want to move Paredes? I'm not sure they're like super excited about it. If they got backed into a corner, I guess they would. But I think if they were going to trade somebody, their first thought would probably try to trade Christian Walker if you could. The other question is, if Paredes doesn't play third, because that's where Correa is going to play, he brings up certain positional versatility. Paredes could play first, but you also have to figure out, like, what is Christian Walker going to do? That's your first question. Paredes, I guess, he brings up, like, he could play second. I don't know about you, Ethan. I don't want Isaac Paredes playing second base. Not for my team or, quite frankly, any team.
Yeah, I'm okay on that.
Especially for the team that I cover with one of the elite defensive second basemen in baseball. I'm good on that. Thank you. But to that point, I do like Isaac Paredes a lot. Then I guess the final question would be, is he just an everyday DH? Which I guess is a fine place for him to be. But if you have him as an everyday DH, that might be where you would consider trading him. I don't think the Astros are interested in moving him, but I guess if they feel like Walker and Correa is a better option than Correa and Paredes, then I guess theoretically they could. But the question got posed in the chat by Ray Schumacher, and that's where this is kind of where it leads to, because we are a Phillies podcast. Is he that much better than Bohm? So let's take a look at their numbers comparatively. Bohm last year, 287. Last year, Paredes, again, smaller sample size because of the injuries and only playing in, what did he end up playing? I think it was 102 games last year. 102 games last year. Only had 378 at bats, but he hit 254. Now, he has a much better slug because of the power numbers, a 458 slug versus a 409 slug for Bohm. 9 extra home runs, despite the fact that he did play in a handful less games than Alec Bohm did. Similar RBI numbers, 59 for Bohm, 53 for Paredes, and what was a down year RBI-wise for both of these guys. The OPS is interesting, the OPS plus. So again, if you're not familiar with OPS plus, 100 is average. Alec Bohm was 102. So anything above 100 obviously is better than average. Below 100 is less than average. That told you that last year, Alec Bohm was as close to average as you could possibly get in terms of OPS plus. Isaac Paredes, because of the power, because of the ability to pull the ball down the Crawford boxes, 123 is about 23% better than league average. So is he that much better than Alec Bohm? I will say this, Ethan, and I want your thoughts on this as well. If you gave me both Alec Bohm and Isaac Paredes at their absolute best, I think I would take Paredes because of the power. I think Bohm is a slightly better defender. Paredes is below average. Bohm, I think, has become average at this point. Like, he was bad for a while. I think he's gotten incrementally better. He's probably, and this is probably the cap, he's an average defender. But because of the power, because of the relative, I don't want to say youth, he is 26, but like Bohm, I believe, is going to be 29 this season. I think I would like on their at their best, I think I would prefer Paredes because of the power. Now, with that being said, I have talked about Alec Bohm a lot in the past. Alec Bohm, if he's in a naturally good spot for him, like, I don't know, hitting 5th or 6th in a lineup compared to trying to be a cleanup hitter, I think that's a better spot for Alec Bohm in the lineup. He's a good doubles hitter. He drives runs in. He hits with runners in scoring position. The average is usually somewhere in the 275 to 290 range, which is fine for me. I don't expect him to ever be a home run hitter. And I know people say 6'5", big body, where's the power? I get it. I understand the questions are there. But I do think when it comes to his skill set, it comes with driving runners in. It comes with being a gaps hitter. It comes with being a good base hitter, which is fine. But I also brought up the point about him last year. If you did not get the value of return that you wanted, that's the report, right? They had suitors. Suitors came in and said, nah, we're good. If you did not get the value of return that you wanted, coming off an all-star season, having 90-plus RBI, playing pretty much every day as an everyday third baseman, and having 2 years of arbitration control, now you come into this year, this offseason, one less year of arbitration control. RBIs were down, was not an all-star, missed time because of injury. Again, probably impacted quite a bit of it, of the rest of those things. If you didn't get what you wanted last year, what do you want this year? You know what I mean? In terms of a trade, like if you, whatever the value was you thought Alec Boehm had last year, it has to have been reduced just because of all of those things that naturally played out. So I guess the question is, Ethan, like, let's start with the Paredes thing. I've been on the record saying I don't think the Astros trade Paredes, but would you, if they said, hey, he's available, would you have interest, and how do you compare him to Alec Boehm?
I would definitely be more in the boat of trying to come up with some sort of trade option.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they take back Boehm, probably
I would
not.
highly doubt it.
And then you got to, where does Boehm go for, the offers that you already had prior? And, I remember like Logan Gilbert was a name where it was like 1 for 1. And,
right.
And I believe the Phillies had said no. So if the bar's still that high.
Which was absolutely stupid in my opinion.
To not do.
I love Logan Gilbert.
Yeah, I would have probably been in the boat of.
Now, granted, you don't have a third baseman, but I guess you got to figure that out.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think this is just us playing hypothetical land because, again, I don't think the Astros are going to make that trade.
Yeah.
But is he, like, to answer Ray's question, is he that much better than Paredes? I think, or is he that much better than Boehm? I think when they're at their peaks, I would say yes. The answer to that question is yes. There are limits to Paredes' skill set. There's no question about it. Again, the defense isn't good. The worry would be that bat speed thing is concerning, which means he obviously, my guess would be, without looking at it, probably gets beat with fastballs quite a bit up in the zone. It's something that you would have to figure out, and I guess at 26, you're probably not figuring it out at this point. But I do think that if they made him available, which again, I don't think they do, I would be interested. All right, let's pause on the other side. I don't think we're going to get to the Mattingly stuff today because I do want to play trivia with you, Ethan, before we get out of here. We'll talk more about Mattingly on Monday. I think that unless something happens, we'll be able to do that on Monday as well. It's the PHLY Phillies podcast. We broadcast live from the Xfinity Lounge, and we will be right back after this. All right, as summer comes to an end, that doesn't mean that the sunshine and glare off cars or whatever it might be isn't impacting your eyes. And if you're like me and you have those sensitive eyes and you need your sunglasses all the time, you have to check out Shady Rays because they have not only incredible pairs of sunglasses, but they offer incredible protection plans as well. Let's talk about the shades first. Crystal clear optics, polarized lenses, durable frames. Not only do they not break, but they're also really incredible sunglasses that are going to protect your eyes in case you have those sensitive, light eyes like I do, where you get headaches. And, if you end up with a migraine, it kind of debilitates you throughout the day. So you need your sunglasses and you need to wear them all the time. Shady Rays is the place to go. How about that with, by the way, with the fact that you can do this with the best protection plan in all of eyewear. Broken, lost, damaged, they're going to replace them, even if it's on day one. So you can wear your glasses with confidence at the amusement park, at the beach, at a concert. No matter what it is, you can do that with our friends over at Shady Rays. And you find out why 300,000 people have rated them 5 stars by heading over to shadyrays.com and using the promo code PHLY for 35% off a pair of polarized sunglasses. Thank you to our friends over at Shady Rays for teaming up with us here today. And let's tell you about our friends over at TrueMark Financial Credit Union. Listen, if your home needs a little TLC or you're dreaming about the next big vacation, or if you're thinking about maybe you just need a repair, it's never a better time to use your home's equity for your own work. So that's where TrueMark Financial's HELOC Select comes in. Rates have dropped, and it's never been more affordable to put your home's equity to work. And you can access all your cash at once or just when you need it. It's total flexibility, just like a good game plan. So make it happen today. Visit one of TrueMark's 24 branches or head to TrueMark.com/PHLY and get in the game today. Federally insured by the NCUA, equal opportunity lender, NMLS number 404938. All right, welcome back to the PHLY Phillies podcast. Sometimes your producer is on top of things and you are not. And Ethan just made a really good point. I have bills to pay, and if I'd like to keep my job, we're going to do it. So we will talk about Don Mattingly in the final segment. We will still get to the trivia. Don't worry, Ethan. We might hit a little bit of overtime, but we're going to get to the trivia. Let's hit our big takeaway segment, which is brought to you by our friends over at Xfinity. Head on over to Xfinity.com to learn more. Xfinity, imagine that. Let's talk about Don Mattingly, because I never would have thought this would have been a conversation we would have been able to have, but Mattingly decided to step away from his role as the bench coach of the Toronto Blue Jays. And now it brings up the question, is Mattingly the potential bench coach that the Phillies are looking for? So since creating the role of major league fielding coordinator, which opens up an availability as the Phillies bench coach, because that's who's shifting from bench coach to the fielding coordinator. Mattingly's an interesting one, because my initial reaction about this is like, wow, I did not expect to have this conversation, not because Mattingly isn't good at his job. Listen, there is a track record, a winning track record as both a manager and as a player. Hall of Fame caliber player, has a decade plus of experience of managing, worked with Rob Thompson in New York. I think would have incredible insight for this team. All of these things are a positive. Plus, is there like, Ethan, is there like reverse nepotism? Is that a thing? Like when you trickles down or trickles up from son to father? I kid, of course. Mattingly has an incredible resume on his own right. But who's the general manager of the Phillies right now? That, of course, would be Preston Mattingly. I joke about that, but I do think maybe it has some sort of merit. But Don Mattingly would be super, super interesting because he does come with a plethora of experience, both as a player and as a manager. So my surprise lies in the fact that, A, I didn't think he would be available, and